The following content may have things that might be considered offensive to some people out there, so viewers' discretion is advised. So if you're watching this at work, I advise you view it with some discretion so you don't get in trouble with your boss. This is Quentin's Enginewerks. Hey there, welcome to another episode of Quentin's Enginewerks. I'm Q, I'm going to be your host. And this week, our special guest is Chris Mowry, writer for IDW. He did some Godzilla stuff. He's done Transformers. He's moved on to Toho. We'll be talking all sorts of fun stuff tonight. Chris, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a great intro, by the way. I got to watch that. That's really cool.
I wish I could take the credit for that. That's some of my good friends at the Indie Comics Dispatch taking care of me.
You've done well.
Yeah, I've got a typical warm-up question that I give to every single person that comes on the show. When as far as geek stuff, we all have our personal Mount Rushmore. For me, it's Lord of the Rings, Transformers, G.I. Joe, and He-Man, or Star Wars, depending on the week to round them out. For you, what's on yours?
Ooh, it's tough. For those brands that you talked about, do you have like specific characters? Like
it didn't have to be characters, just, the general storyline, story arc. Okay.
For me, I mean, obviously, if you can kind of see behind me, it's got to be Jaws for one. Number one, absolutely. Godzilla, Batman, and we can have more than 4 heads, right? Mount Rushmore. Okay. Probably Darth Vader, and then Leatherface. So.
Okay. Well, I thought I knew you well enough where I figured I'd take a shot at it.
Ooh, close. Very close. Very close. Transformers, Power Rangers, G.I. Joe. It's like we have that secondary. You could flip the mountain, rotate it. Those other ones would be on the other side.
Well, I figured with all the work that you did with Transformers, there was a possibility it might be a little bit, it would make the list. And, let's face it, who our age doesn't have a connection to Star Wars?
Sure. Enough to complain about, or for me at least, to complain about the new ones.
The new ones, don't get me wrong, they weren't great, they weren't bad, but I promise you later on in the show we will dedicate a lot of time to Star Wars. For right now, other questions I like to ask anybody in the industry, everybody in the industry, they've got their own personal, whether it's a hero or a villain, they've got a favorite character, for whatever the rhyme or reason. For me, one of my favorites is Harley Quinn because, you see all through the years she's in this really just a toxic relationship, which I loved it because it, after I got back into comic books after almost 20 years, and I was in a very toxic relationship for a good chunk of that time. So it made me, go, this character speaks to me. Who would that character be for you?
Ooh, I think. I mean, I've just always loved Batman as a character. Growing up, I thought he looked cool, and then as I, gained reading comprehension over the years, it was learning more about like the motivations of the character and the morals and all those kinds of things, and the self-sacrifice he puts himself through. So I mean, so Batman's always kind of been there for that.
That makes sense.
I'm in no way rich, physically fit, or capable of doing any of the stuff he does.
That's part of why a couple of one of the guys from the Dispatch and a comic book creator we're friends with. We have our gym wars that you see on social media, basically trying to inspire us to be able to do some of the things that our favorite characters are able to.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. It's anything to help you motivate it, because let's face it, going to the gym as a rule of thumb sucks. But if if there's something to help push you and get you, make it so you're there, then hey, that's 80% of the battle right there.
Yeah, I need to really get back into that. I'm doing a Spartan race in May, so
very cool.
Sorely behind on things. So
I just took the kids on a hike up one of the hills in the area today, and it's not a hard hike, but I'm already getting a glimpse of tomorrow's pain from it.
Just drink lots of water, get a good night's rest.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best on those fronts. Doing the with the comic book thing, you started lettering for IDW, God, almost 15 years ago now. How did you get into that gig?
Honestly, that's fine. Honestly, I answered a Craigslist ad. Of all things,
the hell you say? You got a comic book gig like that.
Yeah. So I had come out of a couple years of working in video games. Worked for Midway, if anyone remembers them. Then Sega, of course. People still remember them.
Sega.
Absolutely. And then, it was just kind of moved back home to San Diego, was looking for work, and, the fun employment was running out, and looked into some want ads, and there was a thing for a graphic artist at a comic book company. And I was like, you know what? I want to try that. Why not? And applied. And I think at first they didn't want to hire me because I had worked for these other companies before. And I was like, no, I want to work for this company in my hometown, and this is a perfect job, and did that.
That's awesome.
And there you go. Yeah. And then my early lettering work is just horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But
I assure you, I've seen worse. Because with Indie Comics Dispatch, we get a lot of the stuff that would be coming as a Kickstarter for people that are just trying to get into the industry at all. And there was one book, I will keep the artist, writer, and title of it to myself, because oh my god, you've seen enough of my reviews to see how we have the 1 to 5 tier for the rating. When I told my boss on that one, being generous, and I'm one of the more generous writers for reviews on the team, and I said, being generous, this thing's maybe a 1.75, maybe. Yeah. It was one of those. I think my 9-year-old could have done a better book, but I don't think the lettering could have been that bad.
It's a tough thing, really, and I learned a lot through my time there. About really just how to keep things concise, and then when I moved on to writing, that actually helped a lot too. In not overloading balloons with like a ton of words, and and how things really should flow.
Yeah, I actually was going to, I was going to ask you, because with all of the experience you had lettering Transformers, whether you liked it or not, you became a subject matter expert on them.
I got lucky in that I grew up with that brand, and then when I moved on to write, it was a really good opportunity, because everything was tied in with these new movies that were really not anything like what we'd grown up with. It was sort of like a fresh start with these characters.
I didn't, personally, I didn't dislike Michael's, the first 2 Michael Bay movies, at least. There were a couple of parts here and there that I could have taken or leave. And the twins in Revenge of the Fallen, I get it. They were supposed to be there for comic relief. They got annoying.
No.
But some of the other
Absolutely
stuff.
Agree.
Devastator, I didn't think it was possible to make him bigger, badder, and more awesome, and they found a way. At least
they did a good job
to me,
for sure.
But so for you, with all the characters in the Transformer universe that you've gotten to know, who are your 3 favorites?
All generations, or
it can be any generation, any Beast Wars, Michael Bay, Gen 1, as like I said, sky's the limit.
I will have to go with the favorites of all time for me have been Slag, because I'm just Triceratops is my favorite dinosaur. Cosmos, of course. It's just, I don't know. There's something about the concept of robots in disguise, and then there's a UFO. Like, you're not really hiding, at that point. Plus, there's a story. There's still a story there that I want to write, and I've been talking with artist Andrew Griffith about for, I guess, 15 years now, practically, about trying to get this one shot done. So, that might happen one day. And then probably, honestly, like, Optimus Prime is the standard, the heroic, again, kind of like Batman, like self-sacrificing, just the good leader that everyone needs. But my work on that movie, Starscream, he's got a soft spot for sure.
Oh, I was actually talking with a buddy of mine at work about Starscream, because I was telling him that I was going to be talking to you, and we talked, and when we were talking about Starscream, Starscream is a little bit more of a conscience and a little bit more of an ego check away from being one of the best good guys in the entire universe. Mm-hmm. And the other side of that is he, a little bit more a little more of an ego check and a little bit more decisiveness, and he can be the best villain. Forget Megatron. This is Starscream's team to run. Mm-hmm. And you got to, to a degree, you got to do that when you were doing Reign of Starscream, which was a very very fun read, by the way. I especially love that one with the tribute to the old Shockwave cover from the original run with the All Are Dead. That was cool.
Number 5, Mark Bright.
Now,
cover.
Did you get to? Did you have any influence on what the covers were going to be, or do they just decide, this is what we're doing, and you don't get anything in on that?
For that one, I did. It was, I was working on that with Chris Ryle, who was the editor-in-chief at the time there. And I'd said, I'm like, I'd love to do an homage cover to like the greatest cover ever, in my mind at least, was that number 5, cover by Mark Bright with Shockwave and the Are All Dead. So he was like, let's do it. And they got Gabe Rodriguez, who ended up, he's a fantastic artist, works on Lock and Key, number of other titles. And oddly enough, like if I didn't have to disconnect this computer and possibly lose connection, I would show you. I have the original art for that cover here.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you showed me a picture of that one in the post when I did the review on it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because I remember seeing that and going, yes.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. It was a really, really nice gift from him. His first book I ever wrote, and it was cool to have that.
I think that's terrific. I'm envious, and I was just a fan, seeing that just a fanboy going, I want that. So for anybody that's not familiar with what with the term canon is where it's not the big gun that shoots the huge lasers or the big projectile. Canon, when it comes to stories and comic books and movies, means it's the understanding that if something happens anywhere along the way in the story, that is a fixed point in time, and all the other stories and everything like that have to acknowledge that. You see it all. You used to see it all over Star Wars before Disney acquired it. Which made it really neat because you could get all sorts of different stories and whatnot, filling in some of the background and the time in between the movies and whatnot. Transformers decided to go a completely different route and basically went screw canon, from the word go, because you had the comic books doing one thing, that's the TV cartoon doing another, and for the most part, never the two shall meet. as a writer, did that make that easier for you, or because you could take more liberties, or was it a little bit harder because you had to be able to come up with your own thing?
It made it both. And those Michael Bay movies are their own separate thing. Kind of, it's kind of how, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but how we kind of view Godzilla, or at least how I view Godzilla. Like, we have this house of Godzilla, and there are different rooms. There's the Monsterverse from Legendary, which is a different room. There's the Sony film, which might be the outhouse that nobody really talks about, but there's these different areas there. So with Transformers, it was really cool that there was this opportunity to write characters that were really kind of like the movies, as you said, they really had nothing to do with anything that came before. Yeah. It was a whole new fresh take. And really, for me, taking like some of the essence of those characters and some of the motivations that there used to be, and then comparing it to how they were portrayed in the film or the movies, were completely like challenging, but also inviting. So when I was doing Reign of Starscream, like rewatched that first movie, I don't know how many times, and Starscream had two lines. One was, the first one was like, "I live to serve you, Lord Megatron," and the second one, I can't even really remember. But nothing was like, "I'm going to stab you in the back," and "Megatron, you suck," and "I should be a leader." So I kind of approached it and wrote that character in a way that was sort of like he's just second in command all of a sudden. He's sort of lost, but he has this kind of like he has his passion still, and he's got his dedication to the cause that once was on Cybertron, that they were all fighting to the death, really, because of this stupid cube thing, the Allspark. And then all of a sudden he's thrust in this position, and so it was kind of like he saw that as an opportunity to lead. But what I try to do is have him slowly become that character from G1, where he's kind of in it for himself.
Okay. Were you much of a fan of all the other? Did you follow all the Transformer stuff? As an actually reading the story rather than writing, doing all the lettering along the way, or was it just more of a this is work, and I've got the other titles that are my fun ones to read.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up like every week going to the comic shop in San Diego, picking up any kind of pretty much every licensed book I could. I missed out in the nice Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns era because I was too busy buying like, oh my god, look at that, that's cool. Into the Smelting Pool. It's like they're back on on it's just all that kind of stuff. So growing up reading those, and then I probably dropped off with like that and Joe right around like issue 50 something. I was like, okay.
It's Joe started getting weird for a little while, right around right around then, which is also really so unfortunate because that's around the time McFarlane started coming to play for over into Joe. But
it was also interesting that with Transformers, like as soon as the movie came out, I've met a number of friends and fans that picked up like from Europe, especially. That's their jumping on point was the movie, and for me it was kind of like, ooh, wait a minute, now it's Rodimus Prime and Ultra Magnus, and it just wasn't for me because there was that shift, and for them though that was like a jumping on point, and so that's kind of like right around that time that I was maybe not.
Yeah, I'm going to be delving a lot deeper into that in a couple of weeks. I have Bob Budiansky coming on.
Awesome. He's the guy. M. Furman.
Oh, I know. In a lot of ways, as soon as I've been trying to get, I've been, kind of like with you, I've, interacted with him through reviews and whatnot for probably about a little over a year, and just trying to fit, actually once the show started, he made my short list, but I wasn't sure if he'd actually want to come on. But so I just threw it out there as a flyer, and yes, well, like I say, April 1st, he's coming on. So either that's one really nasty April Fool's joke, or
I was gonna say. That's awesome, though.
That should be a lot of fun. Because because like say Transformers are one of those. Yeah. At least for me, there's some people that may not share my love with it quite as much.
It's one of those brands that it's lasted. Mm-hmm. And there's generations that love Beast Wars. That was their getting, their entrance point, if you will.
Yeah, I saw that IDW just put Beast Wars back out.
Yep. Read
the first issue of it, and they tried. I wasn't going. I didn't find myself going, "Oh my gosh, where's this been all my life?" Mm-hmm. But the other part of it is the cover on that one. It was $2 or $3 more than a regular cover, and yes, the story was a little bit longer, but not enough to make me go, "That was worth it."
Gotcha. Well, there's a whole other side of that with like page count. Once you increase the pages, and you have to price point to match. The whole boring business side of all that stuff that we can get into if you want.
I have no doubt of that at all. But so with you being a Transformers fan yourself, not counting anything you've written, because we all have our own. You'd have a little bit of a bias there. What's your favorite story arc for Transformers?
Interesting. As a kid, it had to have been probably the one where basically right when like issue oh my god, I can't see now, I'm on the spot. Thanks. Yeah. No, probably like issue 5, with like Optimus Prime's head there. And just the whole, like, is he a good guy, is he a bad guy? And then it goes into how that arc for the next couple issues introduced everything, like Dinobots, and then Devastator, and Jetfire even. And
it was a great time to be alive as a Transformer fan.
It was literally like Freak of the Week, and here's a toy you're gonna go rush out and buy at the same time. And I couldn't buy them. I had to beg and plead to get those bought for me. I had to be a very good boy and then get those bought, purchased. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Grandma. Probably modern days though. I love Last Stand of the Wreckers.
Yeah, for me it was kind of monstrosity, because to me this was the origin story that Trypticon deserved, and going back to what I said before, Transformers pretty much goes, screw canon, we'll reinvent the wheel to do whatever we want to make this better. This is one of the times where I went, thank God you did, because this story is so much better. But that's kind of a hit and miss thing.
It was a good one though.
Shifting gears a little bit, because Transformers, hey, that's my wheelhouse. Godzilla, your wheelhouse. And I know it's with Godzilla, I know personal favorite for you. What's it like getting to write for the King of Monsters?
It was awesome. When I was at IDW, I think maybe 5 days or so after I was there, just to get the lay of the land, read the room kind of thing. I would bug Chris Ryle and I said, man, we got to do the Godzilla license. You got to go after it. You got to get this thing.
Nice.
And then one day it was like, okay, we got it. And I was like, oh, wait, just Godzilla? I'm like, you got to get the other monsters. I'm like, there's no way. Like, Marvel did it without, the supporting cast. Dark Horse did it without the supporting cast. I'm like, you got to try it. So he reached out to Toho and they said, yeah, they agreed. So they had 12 new monsters to work with, never before done. There you go. That is a wonderful cover by Jeff Zorno. Absolutely love that.
That was one of the. That was actually the only one from the run I got. Because, when I was in the comic book store, I saw that and went, "What's that?" I did. Like going back to what I said before, Godzilla, nowhere near my wheelhouse. At best, I won't swing and miss, but at best, I'm going to foul the pitch off. So I read it going, okay, curious, but and I liked it, but knowing next to nothing about a lot of the stuff, I was just going, okay, I think it's good, but because for me, I know there were the comics. Obviously I bought the IDW one. I've got a couple of the ones from the '80s with Marvel. I know Dark Horse did some one shot or two, but for me it was always more.
They did a number of them,
But for me, given the choice of the movies or the comics, I always took the movies. Part of that is because, I'm a Yankee fan, and watching a bunch of kaiju lay waste to Fenway Park, yes, I love that moment. Petty as it may be. Now, which do you prefer? Because I know you're vested in both.
So being able to finally write something was cool, but there are rules as far as per license, you couldn't directly relate anything to the movies at all or storylines. So coming up with new stuff was fun and also very challenging. But for me, it's always the films. There's 29 of them Toho produced. There's a few animated ones. There's a couple Sony's and but then we have the the new MonsterVerse ones and the most recent one coming out here in a couple of weeks, Godzilla versus Kong.
I cannot wait to talk about that.
And I can't talk about it, but it's pretty cool. I liked it.
I'm being nice. I'm doing my best to not throw questions at you that are going to leave you going, I can't answer that. But I also, I did get hit with a couple of questions from some buddies that when I told them I was talking with you, they were going, "Oh, you have to ask this, and this."
Well, I can always say no comment. So
fair enough. So how did you end up becoming such a Godzilla fan in the first place?
So it sounds harsh, but obviously a childhood divorce, spending weekends with the dad on the weekend, and there used to be monster movies on every Saturday. And I saw this this crazy movie, which I eventually found out was called Godzilla versus Gigan, which turns 50 next year, actually. So it's sign of how old I am. But it was just so. You warned everybody before, watching at work and whatnot. So it was so batshit crazy. There's Godzilla. He's talking to this four-legged creature, Anguirus. Then there's the main monsters, this thing with hooks and a buzzsaw for a belly, and then there's this three-headed thing flying around. It was just so crazy to me that at the time I was really into dinosaurs and sharks and whales and stuff, and this was just took all of that and just completely amped it up. And so it's kind of every weekend there was a new monster movie or another Godzilla movie, and and it was just that kind of got me hooked. And then I finally learned, you learn the character, then you see something in a toy store, because back then there were these little I believe his GLJ was the toy company, this little bendy Godzilla, and then there was of course the Mattel Shogun Warrior Godzilla.
I vaguely remember those.
So there are things to buy. I have that little one still. It's the first Godzilla toy I ever owned. I have it at my desk at work. It was it was kind of that exposure and seeing these things on TV, and then kind of being able to go and buy that in the store. But then also, at that time, you're playing with your friends and you guys are out smashing stuff, and I didn't do the firecracker thing. I wasn't allowed, but blowing up stuff, and it was a very cool natural transition into things. And it was just Godzilla always stayed not maybe mainstream, but always well known. Everybody knew Godzilla, but and then the Blue Oyster Cult song too. Growing up, I always hear that in the car, and it was whoa, that's a cool song.
Awesome. Yeah. We're gonna do. I have to do a quick shameless self plug here. If you like what you're seeing with out of everything that we've been doing at Indie Comics Dispatch, please pledge our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. You can get all sorts of swag. Currently, the newest Patreons are getting a few digital books, some stickers. I think there's still a couple more people where if you pledge and you're up to the patron number 20, you're going to get a physical book from one of our team members. And like I say, $3 a month. Hey, that's skip one cup of coffee a month, and help a good cause, or at least I think it's a good cause. But I'll be the first to say I'm biased. Hey, I'm honest. I tell you, it's a shameless plug, and I'm biased about it because, well,
that's awesome, man. Like, I did not know that. Like, is that so? $3 goes to like supporting indie comics.
Indie Comics Dispatch because basically you've seen Wayne's World, right?
Yeah.
Basically, the Indie Comics Dispatch team. I think it's 14 of us that are spread out all over the country. Some of us literally operating out of our basements. I'm in my basement with all my comic book geek stuff, as you can see behind me.
Pretty fantastic backdrop, though.
Oh, it's the amount of work that because underneath the comic book frames, for Father's Day, the first year we moved into this house, my wife went to the comic book store, bought out a bunch of the Buck Box books, and pasted the wall so I have comic books under comic books.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
But
and she's awesome too for doing that.
There's times where I go, she's awesome, and then there's times where I have to question her stability because she picked me. But with like I say, for us, it's like Wayne's World. With all the operating expenses that come with just running the dispatch and keeping everything up and running, we don't get paid. And don't get me wrong, money is not the driving force behind it. But in that regard, it's kind of like that movie Almost Famous. Money's not the driving force, but it'd be nice to get some money.
Something out of it, yeah.
When people ask me about this job, I tell them it's like an internship with really, really good perks. Because Indie Comics Dispatch, they're the one. You saw my video at the beginning of the show. They made that for me. They give me a platform beyond just building my own personal social network. Writing review after review after review on my own. So I have a website that I can go to and go, hey, look, here's all my stuff that a lot of the stuff I've written that gets published, beyond social media, which has been a lot. And on top of it, I got my own show, so I'm getting to talk to people. I'm getting to talk to you this week. I get to talk to, I get my own personal Comic-Con just about every week with somebody who's willing to put up with my nonsense for an hour or two.
That's awesome.
So the least I can do is sling their pitch for them and go, hey, please help.
Yeah, that's great, man. Seriously, especially like this past year with that so many people have been displaced in jobs and everything, and it's been really cool to see a lot of people kind of tap into that creative side and really just finally say, yeah, I got the time now. I'm going to do this thing I've been dreaming about doing. So that's great.
Yeah. And with Indie Comics Dispatch, a lot of our interaction, like I said before, it's with creative teams that are they're trying to get past the point of just doing they're trying to get a Kickstarter that actually makes enough, that does well enough where they can actually be able to finance the next book a little bit. Mm-hmm. With all the different creative teams you've been on over the years, what's your piece of advice to them? How do you make a dent and actually get into the comic book industry?
It's a really good question. And I don't say that like it's a phrased, prefaced thing, but I've heard it like a ton of times. I always tell people I don't know what to say because I answered a Craigslist ad And then it turned into, hey, do you want to help, write this Transformers thing? And then I was like, sure. And then, Chris Ryle had to back out, and I was like, okay, well, when you're ready to come back, let me know. He's like, oh no, it's already solicited. You got to go. You got to write it. I have faith in you. Hearing somebody say like he had the faith in me was all the motivation I really needed. And at that point I was just like, screw it. I'm going to go for it.
Nice.
Turned out, Reign of Starscream, and then Hasbro didn't hate it. And so they said, hey, do you want to do this prequel to the second movie? And I was like, sure. But how about if we did this? And they're like, ooh, how many issues is that? I'm like, I don't know. It's a lot. And they're like, why don't you do two series, 2 prequels? Okay, sure. I'll do it. So it's just really like luck, but talking to like so many, and being alongside co-working for them for like 11 and a half years, like so many different editors. The thing that I kept hearing the most was an artist, try to do your own book. Just even if it's like garbage and you don't like it, just go through the process of putting a book together, show sequential art, not a lot of pinups and things, show storytelling visually. I guess it is so easy now with all the digital print on demand people out there and everything. Like just do your own book, do whatever it is, hand that off instead of like, can I get a meeting with an editor and show you a portfolio of, check it out. Here's Batman, here's Deadpool, and here's this thing, like show that you can do the work and what goes into actually making this product, this book. And that's kind of it. But at the same time, don't be discouraged if nobody picks it up. Like keep doing that. That's your passion. That's what you want to do. By all means, like go for it. Like nothing's stopping you. Like just don't do a license thing and print it without, illegally or anything. But if you have an idea, just go do your own book. Like print that up. And if you're happy with it, take it to the companies, if you will, the industry folks. But if they don't want it, there's nothing that stops you from just doing, a grassroots thing and just do what you love. Yeah, basically.
I don't know if you speak geek, obviously, being in the comic book industry. Are you familiar with R.A. Salvatore's work at all?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw him. He came here to Spokane to speak years ago, and when somebody gave him a similar question to that one, and his response was, my advice to a writer is, if you want to be a writer, stop for a month. If you don't miss it at all, stopping was the best thing you could have done. If you find yourself missing it, you've got the right drive and keep going.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Absolutely. Again, it's all passion driven, really. I look at music wise, like there's bands, and you can go see a band play at a like crappy bar or something like that, but it's like they're doing it though because they love it and they want to do it. And some people hit the big leagues. They make it big, and others are totally happy just doing their own thing on the weekends.
And that one's so hit and miss. Shifting. Gonna shift gears a little bit. Because we've basically spent the last 40 minutes or so talking about Godzilla and Transformers a lot. Your baby Peanuts.
Oh, poor Bubba. Sleeping right now on one of her 5 beds that she has. With me, I've got my Australian Shepherd mix, Caitlin, that she's my buddy and goes everywhere with me that she can. I took her on a hike up the hill earlier today when I went out. But we also have our Boxer Eve, or our Boston. I always get Boston and Boxer mixed up for some reason. But I've got this little Boston Terrier Eve that, and she's my bye buddy whenever she can. She's my best friend if I have my car keys or food. And I know that feeling.
And every morning when I make breakfast, after I'm done eating, the girls get some eggs, some breakfast sausage, maybe a little piece of toast. And I was wondering, with because from what I see, Peanut has to be just about as spoiled, if not more spoiled, than Eve. So I wanted to compare notes on that and see does Peanut have certain meals that if she sees you making that, she's going, I'm going to score.
Absolutely, yeah. I was fortunate enough to cross paths with the one that we call Peanut. Honestly, like almost about 2.5 years ago now. Like
Yeah.
I've only had her for that long. I was visiting a vendor and I saw this little tuft of hair and this hoodie, like hanging out of this hoodie pocket. I was like, "Whoa, what is that? Is that a dog?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, I know. We found her on the street." Took months to try to find an owner. Nobody ever came forward. And I said, "Nobody ever claims that dog. Let me know." And I did. Fortunately, she came in my life. Took her up with me to LA. She is so spoiled. But she's so spoiled and she knows it because I will make stuff like if I'm cooking breakfast, a couple of egg, extra little bit of egg for her.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes she loves it, sometimes she doesn't. Try to cut back on the cheese for reasons that we'll leave to everyone's imagination. Oh no, but I make her food, once, almost twice a week. It's like brown rice, ground chicken or turkey. She eats better than I do, but the good thing is if I ever get really hungry, I could probably eat some of her food if I really had to. I haven't had to yet, but she gets a special gravy with like a vitamin mix and some beef or or like chicken or bone broth. She's extremely spoiled, and she's loved by my coworkers in Japan. So we're going to do a YouTube show pretty soon, and they're like, Peanut has to be in the show. So you will see Peanut in a YouTube show that I'll be doing for Toho. So
I remember you showing, I remember you doing videos, and when I don't remember if it was the riot, if it wasn't the riots, but I remember it was like fireworks.
It was when the Dodgers won. See, I'm a San Diego guy, so you say you're a New York guy. Back in '95, or wait, no, was it '95? No. People are gonna murder me for that. It was later than that. It was like '99 or so. Yeah, I mean, the late Tony Gwynn, bless his heart, RIP. Like he wasn't known for hitting home runs, but he hit a home run against you guys. But that said, the cursed Dodgers won the World Series. They were out and just right outside the window, basically, people donuts and fireworks, and poor Peanut was really freaked out. So he went down 3 levels of the parking garage and just kind of hung out. Like 2 a.m., I'm out there like cleaning my car, and she's running around. I'm like, this doesn't look, sketchy whatsoever, but it's better than her freaking out over fireworks getting shot at my building. So,
I totally understand because Caitlin, my shepherd mix, she's the great mighty warrior defending our home up until the second where it gets loud. And there was one time we had this freak thunderstorm. We had enough rain where people were actually able to canoe around town in places.
Whoa!
And and like I say, just freak storm. Mm-hmm. And we left the bedroom door open. And Caitlin, she's daddy's girl, but when she's mad at daddy, she shows she's mad at daddy. She, like I say, picture, I think I sent you a picture of that dog, big sized dog. Yeah. And she pissed all over my side of the bed, and left
your side, of course, your side.
Daddy's girl.
Yeah, not a zigzag pattern or anything. Your side.
Yeah,
that's a personal touch. Absolutely.
Because it was my fault because I left for work after my wife did, so I was the last one who she saw. So she, or at least I'm guessing that was her logic. So with Peanut, I have to ask about the name because we named Eve because we got her on Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. With Peanut, please tell me it's after the Jeff Dunham character.
Actually not, but what's funny is I had she was so small when I got her. She's about like this bigger, this much bigger since then. But I had just watched an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and it was with Larry and then Leon, and they were like sitting there eating like pistachios or something like that, and someone's at the door, and Leon was like, "Hey, someone's at the door, Peanut." And Larry's like, "Yeah, so get the door, Peanut." And I was like, "Oh, Peanut's a cool name for like this little tiny dog." So yeah, so now everything is just like, "Hey, go do that, Peanut. Go do that, Peanut." And she doesn't do any of it. So,
with Eve, it's depending on what's in it for her, and if what's in it for her, and is my wife around watching to see if she actually listens to what I told her to do. In fairness, Caitlin will look at me when my wife tells her to do something like, "Do I have to listen, Dad?" So it balances out, but
Peanut has just started to learn how to do basic tricks. Like she'll sit. Every so often, I'll get a high five. I'll be like, "Yeah, dog," and she'll like do it, and that's really cool. That's what I'm like. All right, you're pretty hip, dog. Like that's really good.
Yeah. I'm sure the food truck guys down there must love her.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, she loves it. Like we get every Wednesday we get a food truck here at the apartment complex that I live in. So yeah, they bring him in. So like on their nightly walks around the neighborhood, I'm like, okay, what do they got tonight? I'll stop by and get something, and then she's always like, she stands up on her hind legs, and like she's like literally when she stands up like. Seeing, I'm trying to like stretch back, like maybe like that big or so. So she thinks she can smell whatever's coming from like up in the air. It's actually funny. Like I was telling a neighbor the other day, like there's a lot of big dogs here, and she goes up to them and just wants to smell them and everything. And I try to think of like in her logic of if I was a human, all of a sudden I'm seeing like a 60-foot human, like I would not be like, "Oh, what are you doing? What's going on?" And wanting to meet that, I'd be scared shitless, So they're just trying to do this to these food trucks, and then people are always like, they're trying to like lean out the window, like, "Oh, I can't see your dog," so I have to like hold her up, and they're like, "Oh, she's adorable." And then sometimes I'll throw her a little piece of something, but her favorite is the Greek truck that comes by, and I really should know these names for plugs or whatnot, but there's a Greek truck that comes by, so every so often she'll get a little bit of food out of there.
Yeah.
Gyros meat.
I love Greek food, except for they use so much cucumber and tomato and onion, and those are three things that either because of flavor or because of digestive issues I can't have.
Interesting. Okay.
I hate the flavor of cucumber. Tomato, it's the texture. Onions, I think I'm allergic to.
Wow. Okay.
And with that combination,
that's a 3-hit combo. That's the worst combo ever.
So as much as I love gyros, and I'll have them on a very, very rare, very, very rare occasion. In fact, last time I had them with Chip Zdarsky. Wasn't planned that way. We were at Emerald City Comic Con. And it was around lunchtime. I grabbed a tray, grabbed a plate, grabbed my food, sat down. Holy crap, you're Chip.
That's awesome.
Now,
that's what's the good thing about cons, though. Like, I'm so glad we're getting cons back slowly. We're almost there.
The rest of the story, though, is I felt bad for him because he looked exhausted. So so I was going, okay, you're actually on your break. I'm leaving you alone. And the entire, everything, all the time I was at the con, he was the only autograph I did not get.
But you know what? That's really, really cool of you to do.
Well, the year before, I didn't meet him. He wasn't one of the celebrities that I had paid to meet, but David Tennant, and my buddy ran into him in the middle of and when he caught him in between going the photo op thing, the signing thing, and the panel thing, and it was just like a 20-second window there where you could just see him. The dude looked exhausted and was just dragging, and basically could barely even do the "Hey, how's it going?" head nod. And so I made a mental note. Leave celebrities alone if they're clearly in their downtime. And Chip was with a friend. I'm assuming a friend, anyway. Either a friend, friend, family. Either way, clearly, not. It wasn't fan engagement time. And I know how I feel with when I because I run a security checkpoint at the airport when I'm not doing the comic book thing. So I know how I feel when I'm on when I'm on a break in the lobby at the airport and I have somebody coming up to me. Excuse me, where is? Go
right.
So I wanted to respect his privacy on that, and this way I have a fun story for a fun story to tell him whenever I meet him, so I can go and that way he'll remember. I like to think he'll remember me more because I can go, yeah, you were talking to this person at the Euro place in Seattle, and I couldn't something that clearly I couldn't make that up, so he'll go, yeah, thank you, let me hook you up.
And then you could also say, like, you're the only person I didn't get a signature from the whole time. So, maybe if I send you something.
I might have to go that route. Let's shift. We've starting to get back towards geek stuff a little bit more. About a few months ago, you started working for Toho as a creative manager.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Ooh, good question. I kind of run the management of the creative output, the brand output, brand development, product development. Work with a really small team in LA and a couple other freelancers.
Oh, okay.
In the US, but we directly work with our colleagues in Japan to help promote the Godzilla brand and others that'll be coming out.
Yeah,
fairly soon. But yeah, work with all of our licensees, all the products you buy, like I've either seen or my colleague Aaron Gregory, like he's approved and looked at. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like it's a lot of kind of like the first line of like approvals when it comes to the character itself.
Oh, okay, so from time to time, when you see an action figure coming out, you can look at that and go, "Are you stupid? Take that back. Start over."
Yeah.
Oh.
Or like you look at ones, you're like, change this. No, it's 4 toes on this one, on this design. The dorsal fins look like this on this one. Don't call it this. Call it by the year. Godzilla. Don't call it Burning Godzilla. Call it Godzilla 95. 1995. That kind of thing.
That is so awesome. I truly am jealous.
I am the luckiest person I know, by all means. Like I pinch myself daily that I'm here.
For the amount of people in the industry that I've gotten to know so far, you make the top 3. There are, there's a couple of other guys where I've gotten to, as far as luckiest guy, I'm sorry, Rodney Barnes. I talked to him last week, and that was when you look at the movies he's been involved in and all the A-list talent he's been around, and doing movies with Denzel, Julia Roberts, Charlie Sheen before he decided to go on quite the journey.
It's that Tiger Blood.
Yeah. And Tom Hanks, Harrison Ford, like the amount of stuff where and that was just the movies. Then you talk about then you talk about the television run. Then you talk about the comic book stuff. Yeah, Rodney Barnes to be one of the luckiest damn people alive to be able to do, to be able to reinvent himself at, that many different times, and basically come out beating the crap out of everybody along the way. But you're definitely up there as far as you get to do what you absolutely love, which I think is awesome. With regards to the new movie, you talked about doing some promoting on that. Of course, like, hey, told we were going to talk about that a bit. And I know it might be a nitpicking thing here, and I'll be honest about, I'm not, like I said before, I'm not big on Godzilla or most kaiju stuff. I'm familiar with them, but I'm not a subject matter expert. When I saw Kong on Skull Island, I remember he had this Huey helicopter, and and don't get me wrong, he was huge compared to that. But but looking at that, going to putting that to scale, comparing him with Godzilla, at that point in time, tiny. The preview I saw of Godzilla versus Kong, it looks like Kong's almost the same size now. What happened?
So without giving anything away, I could just say, Skull Island, I believe, took place in 1973. Was that correct?
I
think so. But I'll say if that's the case, which final answer, I'm gonna put it down. Say it's 73. That's when I was born, and look how much I've grown since 1973. So modern times, like maybe there's something about Skull Island that makes that ape just keep growing and growing and growing. But just a few short weeks, we'll find out. But there's a reason for it.
I am still looking forward to that.
And like Kong, he grew a beard. He's got things going on,
which is awesome.
I lost everything else, but I keep growing that. But
yeah. For me, Godzilla versus Kong, most anticipated movie of the year. A very close second, Black Widow. Black Widow doesn't count because it was supposed to come out last year.
Oh, I know. But COVID really screwed up so many good movies. I think this is it made our life hell because Godzilla Kong was supposed to come out almost 2 years ago, practically. It felt like a year and a half at least, and then it got moved to a May thing, and then it got moved to November, then it got moved to May, and then it got bumped up to March. And we're like, all right, here we are.
Yeah, so I can see how that could make all sorts of craziness there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Earlier tonight when we were talking, you talked about how Godzilla, with Godzilla you could almost all these different compartments, because depending on which movie you're watching, Godzilla can be pure evil to he's the hero and everything in between. How do you feel about that?
To me, I've always I love what we call the Showa era, which is 1954 through 1975. Godzilla made this transition from a not even really a villain, just a monster, to monster of our own causing, to a hero. And they're so fun. That the hero aspect is great, but the way that they've handled the film since then, in that he's a force of nature, Godzilla is this, and very more just animalistic and protecting its own turf. So it's sort of it's just there, and if it decides to walk through a city, it's going to, And I say it because we don't assign any gender to Godzilla. So
I was actually going to be one of my questions, because depending on the movie, I've seen both genders assigned.
So, yeah, it's sort of we try to say Godzilla is one of its own kind. It's individual. But then you're like, oh, what's King of the Monsters, and all that kind of thing. So no, it's fine. It's a slip that I try to avoid, saying he between it's or not. Godzilla has always been this character who he does what he wants, whether it's a hero or not. And then now in the later films, they're showing this how do I phrase it really? The ultimate, thing, the ultimate creature, and especially in the MonsterVerse films, he's the ultimate titan, and Accept all challengers, really, is Godzilla's mantra, I think.
Personally, to me, Godzilla had. I always thought of Godzilla as a female because watching my grandmother, anytime she was pissed off at any of us grandkids, and watching, and God help any, as bad as that could be, God help anybody or anything that threatened us.
Yeah, that's very. I mean, Godzilla at its core is so just raw nature, I guess you could say. It's the force of hurricanes and tornadoes and natural disasters. Also is the most like maternal, paternal, protective creature out there.
Makes sense.
Just on a much grander scale, that he could. A dog, going back to dogs, like dogs are very much the same, but dogs aren't going to destroy cities and level buildings.
And and with my dog, that could just be wagging his tail. I'm happy to see you. Boom! There goes a skyscraper.
Luckily, Peanut has like this little nub tail. Like you see her butt, she just goes. When I get home, she just does that. So.
I used to have this Great Dane and Lab mix, and oh my God, the tail was like a whip, and just at the the right height. I'm so happy to see you. Let me turn around so I can try and convince you to take me outside. And when you're coming in with hands, both hands filled with grocery sacks, there is nothing you can do to protect yourself.
You're punished with love.
Yeah, that dog had me on my knees in tears so many times.
Oh.
It was a fun dog to have. So with being the creative manager for Toho, I was wondering, I know Toho also, on top of all the Godzilla stuff that in the movie theater, there's also some more animation stuff coming down the pike, and possibly some more books somewhere along the way. Are you involved in those projects at all, or?
Nothing outside of just overall creative approval on things. There's a good amount of things, but as far as like direct involvement, it's how do I phrase it? Not particularly with my name on it. Like I wouldn't be attached to anything, but it's the really fun thing about my job is that I do get to help a lot of the different licensees really try to create stuff that I'm like, this is God that I want to buy this like right now, or it's never been done, and let's create this. And there's a lot that hasn't been announced, but there's gonna be some really, really cool stuff coming up in the next couple months, year and a half kind of thing. So it's a very, very good time to be a Godzilla fan. Okay. Not only are you going to see these, Kong and Godzilla fight, and they fight a lot, but not only are you going to see that, but you're going to see collecting wise, fan wise stuff that you never thought you would see before. And it's cool. It's all going to be available very, very soon. Nice.
I'm assuming we're going to be able to see some of this stuff at the upcoming Comic-Cons. That it sounds like we're, I know San Diego's staying virtual for another year, but a lot of other places are actually starting to say they're getting their con back on. Are you, are you a con fan, or do you, I get the vibe that you go to your fair share, but I'm not quite sure if I'm reading that correctly.
I would go like. Growing up in San Diego, like I'd go to Comic-Con all the time, and then it got to the point where this was really hard to get in. But fortunately enough, I was working either in video games or some kind of industry. I was able to get into it. But then working for IDW, and at that time, then having that show just explode the way it did. I always told people like I'm lucky to work behind a booth where I don't have to walk on the floor and through this like sea of people and shuffle my feet just to try to buy a $12 hot dog or something like that. Just I was really fortunate to be behind the scenes, and then I actually worked for them for a while, and it was a great group of people there. I really like, I think, cons are definitely going to come back in a big way. We really try to be a part, Toho did, to try to be a part of WonderCon. But there's some timing with some stuff you're going to see coming out very soon that it would not make sense to have people go to these panels, people watch virtual panels to see some kind of like new reveal.
Yeah, that are like some features or.
Yeah, that's just timing is not what it would be. So, we were going to do a little interview with like Mondo and IDW, and even we kind of thought that, we're starting our new YouTube channel. We could have those people on for our own thing. To not be able to show something at that convention or the online convention would just feel a little bit lackluster as a company, or like as a studio doing its first thing. But I heard rumors like be possibly in November or something. So the next in-person con, like we're totally there. I said, it was just WonderCon being a first. We didn't want to like do that show injustice, and we didn't want to do ourselves injustice by just not having the best that we could.
Understandable. As far as in-person cons go, I think Rose City is starting to look like it's going to be the front runner. That one, I've got tickets for that one, and that one's in early September. So, something for you guys to think about, and
actually writing that down right now.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact dates. I know it's around September 11th because I just went, because like I say, running a security checkpoint at the airport. Hey, that date kind of means a lot, so I'm going. Hey, if you guys are going to be there, I'm crashing the place and going. I demand to see Chris.
I'll see. I don't know what something I got to check with Japan about to see like what we'll be able to do as far as like an in-person show. Like, so about 2 years ago, we had our first ever booth at Comic-Con, and we brought like we brought the actual suit from Godzilla 2000. We brought a bunch of other props.
Nice.
Really try to make it a sort of like things that people in Japan have seen, but none of our fans here, the majority of them have not had that opportunity. So really try to bring some of what the studio has been doing to a show like that. And it's what we want to try to do in the future for sure. So.
Excellent. Personally, when it comes to Comic-Con, Artist Alley is where it's at for me. Between the amazing art you see available as prints, being able to interact with writers and artists, I absolutely love that part of Comic-Con. Second, very close third would be all the different cosplays. Some of the stuff where you go, oh my gosh, the amount of time, energy, and everything that had to go into that costume is just unbelievable. Oh, excuse me. For you personally, what's your favorite thing about Comic-Con?
I'd say interaction with people. It was, being able to meet like fans is obviously great. Just it's really, really flattering and humbling. Like I still can't believe like, wow, people are in line to have me scribble on a book and talk to me about stuff. But also being in the industry, it's like it's a time where you get to see some of your colleagues like once a year, twice a year, depending on what show you go to. So it's always like interaction, either with if it's new or it's old. It's really more of a social thing. It's never really felt or been like a business thing. It's always just how do we engage and interact and inspire and be inspired by that kind of thing. It's very much like a social setting, and I feel like it's like that for a lot of people, even cosplayers or people that you get the fan clubs together, and people go in groups to go see a certain panel because they all love that one character or that one show or something.
Yeah, that was one thing. Because I went to Emerald City a few years ago, and and the way and then with the way they had everything set up, then you could the area that they did all the big panels for the celebrities. it was set up where you could actually just poke your head in for a couple minutes, watch a few watch a few, and then leave. Or if you were so inclined and there were seats available, grab your seats and be able to check out the whole show. And for me, the big panel I wanted to see was David Tennant with Billy Piper from Doctor Who, because as you can see over my shoulder, I've got I've got a couple of Doctor Who things on the wall.
Absolutely.
That's the Karen Gillan there. Andrew, I think his name's Andrew. Andrew Fry was the artist. It was a commission sketch that then I sent to GalaxyCon and had her sign for me. And the one right above my head, Billy Piper signed that, and I got to meet her in Seattle.
Very cool.
I could afford that. I couldn't afford to get Tenet at the same time, unfortunately. But at that particular juncture, though, we were able to. It was okay. You can get your seats for the person previous, and then you've already guaranteed your spot for the next panel. So the person previous to Tennant and Piper was Patrick Rothfuss. And on top of the novels you're familiar with, he does a children's book called The Princess and Mr. Whiffle.
Oh, no way.
And oh my gosh, he read it to he read parts of it to us, and I was going, oh my gosh, it's a very sweet book, but also very dark. He does the disclaimer thing. This is not a children's book. I went, yeah, right. My kids love it. In fact, they love it so much. They love it so much that they don't realize that I went to I went to his website and I ordered a copy for each of them for when they're old enough and have kids of their own. And in the meantime, they've each got their own copy of these two books that are hidden in my office. They've got plenty of time, though. I don't need them having kids right away. We talked about 2020 a little bit earlier, and in a lot of ways, it colossally sucked. For me, the biggest low point, Dad lost a battle with congestive heart failure that had been going on for years. And,
sorry to hear that.
Well, thank you, but it was one of those things that knew was coming, and Dad was an even bigger geek than me. I wish to God he could see, if he had, that he could have been around stuck around another 8 months or so to be able to see, hey, look, I'm starting to make it.
Doing stuff, yeah.
Even being able to be just a viewer on these chats and be able to go, oh, come on now, that's not the way that's not the way it happened. But unfortunately, it is what it is. On the bright side, he's more comfortable now. On top of that, like we talked about before, lost a couple cons, lost a trip to taking the kids to the Magic Kingdom down in Disneyland, because they had the new Star Wars rides, the Marvel rides, and I was going, yes. What do you mean the park's closed?
Apparently, they're opening April 1st, though.
Yeah,
we'll see, but yeah.
I know we've rebooked, and hey, you might have to come. Might have to see about having you come catch up with us for an afternoon and have lunch or something.
For sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but on the other side of that, like I said, for me with 2020, I'm getting to take steps towards doing what I actually want to do for a living. If I can figure out a way to get paid for it, and be able to still have fun doing it. For you, what were the upsides to 2020?
Definitely spending more time with Peanut, my dog. Also, in a way, showing that this little ragtag group of like 6 people in our LA office could completely seamlessly, without a hitch, like work through everything that got thrown at us. We went out of the office. Everyone started working from home. No change in communication. communication with Japan, communication with the UK. Like we handle everything outside of Japan business wise for this brand. So just
Nice.
talking to everybody, and then having this big tentpole movie that we're also involved with, shift dates and move around and all these other moving parts. It was the adaptability, the flexibility, and then in Peanut's case, the availability. Those were probably the best things, really. And then just the job, just expanding in different partnerships that we have, and meeting all kinds of really, really cool people. And again, like it sounds like a pitch for products, but it's like I'm so fortunate to work with a lot of very passionate people, and people who love this brand, this Godzilla brand, and there's gonna be a ton of really, really cool stuff coming out.
To me, that doesn't sound like that's not a pitch for products. That's having the benefit of being in a job you truly love.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
Just like the reader digital copies I get for my job with the Dispatch, I'm going, this is awesome for the most part. There have been a couple things along the way that I've read where I'm going, oh my gosh, I cannot. I had there's stuff I got a free digital copy, and I went, shit, yeah, I'm buying that. Because I liked it that much, I believed in it that much, and I want to see that. I want to see that dream become a reality. So I get it.
That's great, right? It's just, I think there's so many sayings about it, but it really is like if you're doing something that you love, like it's not a job. I mean, my job, don't get me wrong, just feel like a job. Absolutely. Like it's late nights, it's flexibility, it's a lot of work. I'm like, I work nonstop, but at the end of the day, I'm like, look what I'm doing. I'm working on this brand that I grew up with and been in love with since I was like 5 years old.
And I think that's awesome. I do understand, because there's times where it's felt like work for me too. With there've been a couple books that I've read and where I was going, I hate this book, but from a technical aspect, the artwork's incredible. It's not, the story's good. I don't like it, but it's good. It's got a reasonable plot. It's not something where there's a bunch. I use the term because comics. It's the equivalent of Hollywood magic, where you're just going BS. And so when the book doesn't have anything where you're going, because comics, this was able to happen, you're going, like say, and I've had it happen a couple times where books where I absolutely hated the book, and by the time I was done scoring it, it was a 4.25, and I was going, that's just wrong. And I've had the other end of it, Keanu, that book Keanu Reeves did, Berserker, and I was looking at it going, I really liked it, but the artwork wasn't great. The story, okay, it's okay. It's just that it's okay. It's basically you've got a guy that seems to be invincible. We don't know why. And all sorts of stuff along the way where you're just going, okay, there's, as much as I liked it, I couldn't justify giving it. I think I only got like a 3.75. Mind you, it's out of 5, so it's not like we're talking out of 10 points where you're just
right.
But still, But everybody's entitled to their opinion, which brings us to the last topic of the evening. One of the most controversial things we're going to go over in the course of the evening: Star Wars.
Interesting. Like, I'm so glad I had shot my mouth off earlier then about.
Like I told you, I promised you we would come full circle on that, because everybody that comes on the show goes on the Force board. For every single Star Wars movie that's been out, we have episodes 1 through 3, 4, 5, 6. All the new stuff. Solo, the Ewok movies, Rogue One. And now the moment of truth. Where does Chris Mowry go? Where does Chris Mowry's name go on that board?
Is this for favorite movie?
Favorite movie? You don't, whichever one you see fit. There is no wrong answer, but you will be asked why.
going to go with so tough. I have a few for a few personal reasons, but
I can appreciate that.
Let's go New Hope, episode 4. Let's do it.
And as my buddy Jim would say, you're the first person I've interviewed that's gotten that question right. Wow.
I saw that with my dad 15 times in the theater. Because back then, movies ran for like months and months and months. But it's just, the Empire is obviously like one of the best. Like, there's so much stuff, but it's like, I feel like, everybody's like, oh, Empire.
Yeah, that's pretty much, you can see.
Yeah, New Hope got everybody into it. Rogue One, I thought was really cool just because, I got to see it with really cool people. The prequels were great because at the time I worked with everybody who were into the original, trilogy. So it was like, we did the midnight thing for the toys. We saw a lady with crutches almost get trampled. Like, it was those 3 movies. And there's so much like world building too in the prequels that I think the storyline, the dialogue, everything's kind of terrible, but there's so much to add to the mythos, which is great. I didn't like the last trilogy because it was sort of like a rehash and reinventing a character. I think if they could have found a different, like, crazy, hairy sidekick, they would have, killed Chewbacca, like, definitely, and earlier.
Well, to me, it seemed like, with the prequels, loved them, but for various reasons. Episode 1. I won tickets on the radio. I took my dad to the midnight showing on the for the first night that the new Star Wars was out after 20 years.
Nice.
Episode 4. I remember being 4 years old and watching that and loving it. Mm-hmm. Episode 6. I remember Dad taking me. I don't remember the exact day. I remember going, it's hot. But all the cool characters from that one, you had everything from Jabba's palace, the Rancor, the speeder bike chase. I mean, I got for Christmas that year, I got a Rancor that I still have. It's in a display case under glass now. So nice. That way life doesn't happen to it. Nice. Empire. I loved the AT-ATs on Hoth, but to me, as a kid, the movie was just too slow.
Okay, I could see that.
And so episode, the other big thing with the prequels, who in this country who had seen 4, 5, and 6, when you're watching episode 1, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are fighting Darth Maul, and they are barely keeping up with him. He's kicking their ass. Let's face it.
Yeah.
As soon as those those force field doors, I don't remember the exact technical term for them. As soon as those things closed, separating Obi-Wan from Qui-Gon, who watching that movie didn't go, well, Qui-Gon is dead now?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's just a matter of time.
There was no foreshadowing. It was more like, here's a transparent page on a book that you're like, oh, I already read that page behind there. I just saw completely what is going to happen.
I mean, and so that part in some ways ruined it for me, because as cool as as great as some of these moments are, you knew no matter what, you knew Anakin was going to live to tell the tale from no matter what the hell he got involved in. Same goes for Obi-Wan.
Right.
Same goes for Yoda. And pretty much anybody else is fair game, but but when you're having the hero of the story and you already know they're invincible no matter what.
It's kind of weird because I had this talk with a friend before, and it's like, as boring as it sounds, if you could take Palpatine's storyline out of that and make like its own kind of standalone thing, like a one-shot sort of story with just Palpatine's rise, that's a cool story. But as far as like this trilogy of prequels, I felt like you should have started with the, Hayden, no offense to Jake Lloyd, start with the Hayden Christensen era. Like he's like a teenage slave on Tatooine or whatever,
Yeah.
So it's not this crazy jump from like 1 to 2 where you're like, oh, now there's this kid, he's the same age from like 2 to 3, but then spend more time showing like, the Jedi Purge and really building up, how insane Anakin turned.
Well, the trade-off to that is you're right. No, no Jake Lloyd, but also that would mean no Darth Maul.
Yeah, it's true.
And mind you, I'm sure Jake Lloyd wouldn't mind considering, he was a one and done. He after everything that happened to him after playing young Anakin, he went, screw this, I'm out.
Yeah, or maybe if it was this is going to get really nerdy. Maybe it was Hayden Christensen in the first movie. He flies up, he destroys the whole thing, then flies back in that Naboo fighter. And for some reason sees like Obi-Wan struggling with Darth Maul after, Qui-Gon gets killed, and maybe shoots him, and then that, the laser blast or whatever blows Darth Maul in half. And so we still get the whole, who knows? And he's like, oh, you killed a Sith Lord, Anakin. You might be a Jedi yet.
Part of me's going, that's awesome, and I like it. And the other part of me's going, that's starting to reach into because comics.
Yeah, it's of course. So the comics, you can do anything. Absolutely. Which doesn't work, cool, we'll retcon it like two years later. We'll just rewrite the whole thing. And going back to canon of all things, full circle. So.
Going back to canon with the Mandalorian, I don't remember. I wrote about it, and the link to it is in the review on my social media. There's a fan fiction thing. It's like a 10-book, book that's like 10 pages long about tying the Mandalorian into the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Well worth reading.
Really, I thought the series actually did a good job of like. From the get-go, it's like, oh man, 6 years or so after episode 6, it's like, why are there still Empire around? Why
this thing, this one, it's the difference between shooting and throwing a bullet. Like I said,
yeah.
I'm sure it's in an article. I did a review on it. It's also in an article on the indiecomicsdispatch.com website. It's one of the articles Brett did somewhere near the end of last year. For some of the the top books of the year, and Brett and I don't always agree on stuff, but this is one where we're both going, yes, you have to read this. But that's half the fun of the geek thing, though. Knowing, if you can, if you don't have to necessarily agree, but if you can respect each other's opinions. And I really wish that more of the world would take on a geek's philosophy of that. But
true enough, absolutely.
But to quote the great philosopher Jagger, you can't always get what you want. So
sometimes you get what you need.
Very true. But it has been a wonderful time having you on the show this evening. Thank you for your time. I appreciate, hey, we hit the hour and a half mark just about, and we weren't even really trying.
No, not at all. No, likewise, Quentin. Thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate that.
I've loved having you on. Would love to have you. What I really want to try and do somewhere down the road is if I can get the stars to line up, I'd like to have a night with all the Transformer writers. Get you, Barb, and Simon Furman, Bob Budiansky, TJ. God, I can. Or Tyler, I always butcher his last name. It's really long. Either I don't remember if it's German or Polish. I see him on. He's got the Devastator bike. I see on social media all the time. But
get everybody on though. That'd be fun.
I'd love to get have a one big Transformers night. And I ask a question and you guys just I'm basically playing moderator for the rest of the night.
That'd be good. That'd be a lot of fun.
I think so. Then again, I'm biased and going, this, like I say, that would be my, my own personal dream Comic-Con come true. And, But somewhere along the way, I'd love to be able to try and see if I can make that happen. If you're up for that, I would love to have you be part of that, or maybe, if nothing else, at the very least, somewhere in the, a few months from now, I'd love to have you back on so we can go Godzilla. That was awesome. Or Godzilla, dude, what were you thinking?
I'd be honored. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Sure. And for all the viewers out there, hey, thank you for watching again. For the low price of $3 a month, we do have the Patreon going. Become a patron, get some cool swag, and help keep the Indie Comics Dispatch up and running and in the game. And thank you for everybody for watching, and have a wonderful evening. Good night, everybody.